All right, today we're going to dive into a theory that pretty much challenges everything you've ever been taught in history class. It's a story that's been pieced together from all these different clues, geological, archaeological, even astronomical. And they all seem to point to one really startling conclusion, that our past is way older and way more advanced than we've ever been led to believe.
Okay, so let's jump right in with our first, and probably most famous, clue, the Great Sphinx of Giza. Now, you know the official story, we've all heard it, but the stone itself, well, it seems to be telling a completely different tale.
So this is where it gets really interesting. You've got the official story clashing head-on with the geological evidence. You see those deep vertical fissures on the body of the Sphinx? Geologists will tell you that's classic erosion from tons and tons of rainfall. But here's the kicker. Egypt has been a bone-dry desert for the last 5,000 years. The timelines, they just don't add up. And this timeline really just puts it all into perspective, doesn't it? We're talking about a massive gap in time. For the Sphinx to have this kind of water damage, geologists like Robert Schoch have argued it would have to be ancient before the pyramids were even a blueprint. This would push its origin all the way back to a time when the Sahara was a green, lush savanna. We're talking something closer to 10,500 BCE.
You know, it's not just modern geologists saying this. There's an ancient Egyptian record, the Inventory Stele, that tells a very similar story. It actually claims that Pharaoh Khufu, that's the father of Khafre, the guy who supposedly built it, he didn't build it at all. He just found it, already there, half buried in sand. This basically suggests the famous pharaohs were restorers, not the original builders.
So here's the crucial point. If the Sphinx is thousands of years older than the pyramids, it probably isn't an isolated case, right? It becomes clue number one in a huge global mystery. So let's see where the next piece of evidence takes us. And this is where the investigation just blows wide open. Because the things we see in Egypt, well, they don't just stay in Egypt. We start to see these echoes of the exact same impossible engineering and this very distinct style in ancient sites all around the world. It's almost as if they were all working from the same instruction manual. Now, this is a fascinating point because it just flips our whole idea of progress completely on its head. What we see is devolution, not evolution. The oldest structures are actually the most sophisticated. You've got granite boxes in the Serapeum in Egypt, for instance, that are machined to a precision that we would struggle with today. And then you see these identical building styles like this weird polygonal masonry and these strange little stone nubs just popping up in Peru, Egypt, even Japan. It's like they all had a single standardized blueprint. So this evidence, it really forces us to ask a monumental question. How could a civilization with this incredible ability, a civilization that was clearly seafaring and globally connected, how could they just vanish from the face of the Earth? Well, the theory proposes a single world-altering event, not some slow decline, but a sudden, catastrophic reset that just wiped the historical slate clean, leaving behind only scattered survivors and these massive, enigmatic stone ruins. And you know what? Climate science actually gives us a prime suspect for this exact event, a period known as the Younger Dryas. Now, this wasn't some gradual change. We're talking about an era of violent, abrupt climate shifts, massive flooding and extinctions, all happening right at the end of the last ice age. And the key date is 11,600 years ago. This is when scientists pinpoint a huge event they call Meltwater Pulse 1b, a sudden, absolutely dramatic rise in global sea levels. It's a date that lines up perfectly, not just with the proposed end of this lost civilization, but also with the timing of over 500 great flood myths from cultures all over the planet. And then you have Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. It's the world's oldest known megalithic site, dated to nearly 12,000 years ago. It just appears out of nowhere, fully formed, no simpler versions before it. And the strangest part? Whoever built it deliberately and carefully buried the entire site as if they were trying to protect it, to create a time capsule before some coming cataclysm. So if there was a global civilization and a great flood, where did they live? Where was their home base? Well, the source material points to literally the last place on Earth you would ever think to look. This is truly mind-bending. There are these ancient maps, like the Piri-Reis map from 1513, that appear to show the coastline of Antarctica without its ice cap. I mean, they depict rivers and mountain ranges that we didn't even know existed until we used subglacial sonar in the 20th century. How is that possible? How could they map a continent that's under miles of ice? The only way is if it was mapped before the ice was there. So how could that happen?
Well, the proposed mechanism is a radical theory called Earth crustal displacement. The easiest way to think about it is like this. Imagine the Earth's crust is the loose skin of an orange. This theory suggests that the entire skin can shift, all in one piece, moving continents into totally new climate zones almost overnight. So in this scenario, Antarctica wasn't always at the South Pole. It was once in a much warmer, temperate zone, and a sudden crustal shift moved it to where it is today, flash freezing it and everything on it.
And I know, it sounds like something straight out of science fiction. But it's probably worth noting that this exact theory caught the attention of, Albert Einstein. He even wrote the foreword to the book about it, saying he found the idea plausible.
Okay, so if you thought that was wild, buckle up. The final part of this hypothesis gets even stranger. It moves from the Earth to the sky, and it asks if this great cataclysm didn't just happen on its own, but was actually triggered by something.
The source material points to this absolutely stunning mathematical coincidence. The Sun is about 400 times larger than the Moon, right? But it's also about 400 times farther away. This perfect ratio is the only reason we have total solar eclipses, where the Moon perfectly blocks out the Sun. I mean, what are the odds of that happening just by chance? They're astronomical.
But it's not just the math. That weird anomaly is paired with some really strange physical data. When the Apollo 12 crew intentionally crashed a module into the Moon's surface, NASA scientists were totally shocked. Their seismic sensors reported that the entire Moon vibrated, or rang like a hollow bell, as they put it, for more than an hour. That does not sound like a solid natural rock. And incredibly, this all circles back to ancient myths. You have Zulu shamans in Africa and ancient Greek authors like Aristotle writing about a time of the proselyons, which literally means the people who were there before the Moon. These legends claim our Moon is a newcomer and that its arrival in Earth's orbit is the very thing that triggered the great cataclysmic flood. So if even a fraction of all this evidence holds water, the big question is, why isn't this mainstream knowledge? Why isn't this in our history books? Well, this leads us to the final, and definitely the most provocative part of the whole theory, the claim that this history isn't just lost, it's being actively suppressed. The theory concludes with this really provocative idea, that our history is being managed. The idea is that history isn't a straight line of progress, it's cyclical, with incredible civilizations rising and falling. And if we knew about the advanced knowledge our ancestors had, it might challenge the way things are today. So evidence is gatekept, we're sold a simple, linear story of progress, all to keep us from understanding our true cyclical potential. And ultimately, that's the question this whole body of evidence leaves us with. Are the incredible ruins scattered across our planet simply the work of our well-understood ancestors, or are they the faint echoes of a forgotten, global civilization, a history that could change everything we think we know about who we are?